Welcome back to video number 3 of the series. I'm Joe Farrell with Farrell Firearms Training and Team Atlas Gunworks, and today I'm bringing you James Tate of Super Bell Ammunition, and also a Team Atlas member. He's going to be explaining the proper stance and the proper grip to help you shoot quickly and accurately. Enjoy.
Hey everybody, I'm James Tate with Atlas Gunworks and Super Bell Ammunition. I've been a competitive shooter for 14 years, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about what I consider to be the foundation to the rest of your shooting fundamentals. We'll go over grip and stance. Now on your stance, we're going to split it in half and we'll talk about lower body and upper body and how they're extremely different. Like I said, I consider these to be the foundation to the rest of your shooting fundamentals, so we need to start here before we get to the rest. We'll start with our feet and move up from there for our stance. I hope this video can find some of our newer shooters and Second Amendment enthusiasts and give you what you need for a successful outing on the range. Now that we've covered what we're going to go over, we'll start with the stance. I like to begin using the feet first and work up from there so that we have a solid base to work from. On your feet, I want you guys to set them up roughly shoulder width apart. Maybe slightly wider, but I don't want you guys going super wide because you're going to stress your quads and it's going to become extremely uncomfortable and you're going to get fatigued really quickly. Your right foot or your dominant side foot, I want you guys to pull that back about 2 to 3 inches, roughly a quarter of a step. This is basically your aggressive fighting style stance, right? We are about to be controlling an explosion in our hands with these handguns, so we want to be aggressive but still comfortable so that we can control these firearms. You want to put your weight slightly onto the toes of your feet. You don't want to be leaned back onto the heels of your feet, because once you begin to shoot, you'll rock back and the gun will control you. So like I said, roughly a quarter step back, roughly shoulder width apart, and we're going to lean slightly forward onto the toes of our feet. From here, this is what your feet need to be set at for a centered target. So for me right now, my target would be you, the camera, the audience. If you're shooting at multiple targets, once you become a little bit more skilled in your shooting and you're transitioning between targets, you're going to take your toes and point them outward until they're just outside the outside edges of your 2 outermost targets. This way, later on we'll talk about what moves and what doesn't, but you can run your hips and your legs to push your body in transitions from target to target without being knocked off balance onto your heels like we talked about at the beginning. Moving up from your feet, I need you guys to bend at your knees and your waist. I want you to think almost like you're sitting down in a stool. If the stool's behind you, you're basically going to go into a squat position to sit onto it. Once again, I don't want you to over-exaggerate this and become fatigued and tired. I want this to be comfortable yet aggressive. So don't squat super far down, but a slight bend in your knees, a slight bend in your waist, roughly shoulder width apart, and onto your weight onto the toes of your feet. This will accomplish an aggressive fighting style stance for your lower body. It is very important to note that this is the only part of your body that moves during the firing sequence. Once we set up a grip in our upper body, the upper body locks out and does not move. Anytime you transition from targets later on, it only comes from your waist down. Now that we've talked about our lower body, we're going to move on to our upper body and our grip. Once again, it's super important to remember the upper body, once it is set, is going to lock out so that we can drive these guns, and the only part that moves for us to drive from target to target for our transitions is our lower body by moving our hips and our waist. So once the upper body's set, leave it there and it doesn't change throughout the firing sequence. In order to set up our body, we're going to start with our arms for our upper body. Start by not moving your arm from your shoulder to your elbow. Only bend at your elbow and bring your arm straight up. I'm going to turn for demonstration purposes so you guys can understand. I want you to clap in front of your body. Stop when your hands are touching and press straight out. From here, I want you to realize that if you hyperextend the joint and lock out your elbow, you're effectively taking away all of your recoil management that your arms are capable of doing, and you're going to drive all of that recoil into your shoulders. And throughout the firing sequence, especially if you're shooting fast, all of that recoil is going to rock you back onto your heels, and the gun will be controlling you, which is not what we want. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter if your feet and your legs are set right or not. If you lock out your elbows, the gun will control you. So remember, keep your arms slightly bent with your elbows pointed towards the ground. Don't lift your elbows up to where they're parallel with the ground, but keep them down and slightly bent. This creates a shock absorber, much like on a car suspension. From here, we want the chest, the shoulders, and the back to be slightly tight, but not so tight that you're uncomfortable. We want to remember that we're setting up a position for us to enjoy and spend all day like this. I don't want you guys thinking you've got to get super tense like you're about to lift a bunch of weight. Be tense to control the firearm, but relaxed enough to be comfortable. After we get this set up, this is how your upper body and lower body together will remain throughout the firing sequence. So next, we need to understand the grip. For that, I'm going to bring over one of my firearms. This is an Atlas Chaos. So to start our demonstration on how to grip, I'm going to start with my dominant hand and the firearm. We know through our nomenclature that this is the backstrap or the beaver tail, and all handguns are made with them. There's a huge purpose here. The higher we can get the web of our hand between our thumb and our index finger eliminates any control mechanically of the firearm over our body. Every time the firearm cycles in recoil, your slide will move rearward, and it creates a hinge over your wrist. So the higher we can get a grip on this firearm, the more control we'll have over it. However, the majority of your recoil control and recoil management comes from your left hand, not your firing hand. So don't be too concerned with trying to grip the gun with your dominant hand and overcompensating and messing up your trigger pull later. Once we get our hand all the way up into the beaver tail and get it as high as we can, we're going to wrap our 3 fingers, middle, ring, and pinky finger around the grip under the trigger guard, leaving our index finger pointed down the frame or the slide of the firearm. From here, I want you to start setting up with your left hand. Imagine that you're reaching out to give somebody a handshake. However, bend your hand over at the wrist roughly 45 degrees. Doing this gives us another mechanical advantage to control recoil. Alright, so once we've got our right hand set up, it's also important to realize that if you have an external mechanical safety like this firearm has, we can use that to our advantage also. If your firearm doesn't have one, that's fine. I'll show you another pistol here in just a second that's completely different from this one and show you that the grip really doesn't change. Being that this one does have an external safety, I'm going to put my thumb over it and ride it just like a lever, giving me a little bit more control over the pistol. Also, it's important to note that if I choose to put my thumb under it, I effectively cut off 50% of the surface area that I can get contact with my non-firing hand. This takes away a lot of control and helps the gun control you. So leave your thumb up high. Like we talked about, break that wrist over 45 degrees. We're going to inject it into the opening of the firearm and wrap our 4 fingers around our shooting hand. This leaves both thumbs and your finger aimed down the side of the frame and the slide, and complete control over the grip so that we can appropriately control recoil. Now that we've talked about the grip on an Atlas Chaos open division gun with optics and gas pedals and everything, I'm going to show you a completely opposite firearm setup and show you that the grip doesn't change no matter what you have in your hands. This is literally the complete opposite of what we just had. This is a Glock 42, and it is a single stack polymer frame, iron sight, no gas pedal, completely stock, regular handgun. This is what most people are going to carry, or similar to what most people are going to carry. As you can see, Once again, we still have a beaver tail and back strap on the firearm. We're still going to take our firing hand and shove it as high into that beaver tail as we can, wrapping our fingers around the bottom of the trigger guard. We still leave our trigger finger pointed down the frame of the firearm. Once again, it is still the exact same. We leave as much of this area open as possible so that we can take our right hand, break it over 45 degrees at the wrist, inject it into that hole, and wrap our fingers around. Once again, both thumbs are pointed down the frame of the firearm along with our index finger. As you can see, the firearm is completely different. Single stack versus double, polymer versus metal, no gas pedal, no frills, and we don't change the grip. This grip will help you accomplish the most recoil control and mitigation that you can successfully over the firearm. Thanks for tuning in today, guys, and I hope you learned something on stance and grip that'll work for you and help you on a successful range day. Take what we've talked about today and get out to a range and practice.